Hi, I'm Vincent, a student at the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences. Today I would like to share with you my research results as part of the Go Electric project. The main goal here is to gain new insights into zero-emission mobility in service logistics. For this, we have gathered a lot of partners who either work in the industry or design solutions. Some of these solutions need more research, and that's where we come in. So today we'll have a look at the hub-bike combination for Unica. Unica being one of the biggest technical service providers here in the Netherlands. The focus here will be on our maintenance branch. Let's first talk about the current flow of work. These maintenance engineers all have their personal company cars. These can either be regular passenger cars or light commercial vans. With these in the morning they first go to the nearest branch office. Here they get a cup of coffee with their colleagues and stock up on spare parts and then get to work. Most of this is scheduled maintenance, but there's always a chance that an emergency job comes up. For this research, we have analyzed a year's worth of data from around 20 engineers in and around Amsterdam. This is a suitable area for this business case because there's a high density of clients and there's upcoming regulations concerning zero-emission zones. These engineers of course also live in the area and travel around 30 kilometers to get to work. They do 3 to 4 jobs a day, where an average job takes them 2 hours and 20 minutes. In between jobs they drive around 17 kilometers on average. Altogether these engineers dealt with 10,000 jobs last year, where 60% was here in Amsterdam. In Amsterdam, however, zero-emission zones will be implemented and thus they will no longer be able to use their diesel cars in the future, so a new solution is needed. Urban Aero and the hub company proposed the combination of an electric cargo bike and a semi-mobile hub. The cargo bike would allow the engineer to drive around town freely, whereas the hub would be able to charge it at night and store a certain amount of spare parts. Unica really liked this idea, but they had some questions concerning, for example, its efficiency and cost effectiveness. So the following question needs answering. Which logistics concept that makes use of this electric cargo bike and a semi-mobile hub is profitable for Unica? So now we first need to talk about what we call profitable. Together with Unica, we decided on the following list of requirements for any alternative mobility solution. It has to be a proof of concept in which the engineer is happy, the efficiency stays the same, that is to say that it shouldn't slow the engineer down, he can still do the same amount of work, and it should be cost efficient. Then there are some things that are nice to have. Scalability is preferred, just like it being future-proof. For example, it could be argued that a hybrid car is just a temporary solution. And then we would like to get as much CO2 reduction as we can get. With all of this in mind, we can start coming up with concepts. Because the use of a bike and a hub doesn't make up a whole logistics concept. For example, how is the engineer going to get to the hub? For this, we decided on 2 concepts. The first one being shown here in this flowchart. In this concept, the engineer still uses his current company car to get to the hub. There his bike, tools and parts are waiting for him and he can get to work. If then however he has a job that is outside of the service area of the hub, he can use his company car. In this process, he carries all his tools and materials still with him and therefore requires a bike with plenty of storage capacity. Due to the size of this bike and the need for storage shelves in the hub can only host 1 engineer. Then we have the second concept. In this concept we decided to separate the flow of parts completely from the engineer. Instead of those being delivered to the hub, they go straight to the jobs where they are needed and where they'll be waiting for the engineer to arrive. The other big change in this concept is that we took the company car completely out of the equation. The engineer now uses personal means, or for example public transportation, to get to the hub and carries onward on bike. If he then still requires a means to get outside of the service area for an emergency job, he can use a taxi. The taxi itself of course will be more expensive, but on the other hand there will be no parking costs. In this model a smaller bike can be used and there's no need for storage shelves anymore, so now the hub can host up to 4 bikes. For this concept we've decided on the following service area. This area is just a suggestion, there have been no agreements as to whether this is actually possible. This one however covers some of the major client areas in Amsterdam and a good part of the city center. For the financial calculations, we've selected the following cost drivers Those being of course the lease prices for the different vehicles, fuel costs, but also parking. Labor and delivery are also a big option here. Based on the driving information of the individual engineers in 2019, we calculated which cases would be within the service area and therefore divided up the driven distance between the car and bike in the new concepts. This, together with other input like the prices of the vehicles, led to this cost overview. As the highlighted colors show, the new concepts cost more. Depending on engineer and concept, the increase goes anywhere from 14% all the way up to 128%. Let's have a close look as to why there is such a huge price increase. The first concept has the same lease price, of course, but parking and fuel slightly decline. This, however, doesn't make up for the additional costs for the bike and hub. The second concept is even worse. Now there's no company car, but the public transportation subscription costs quite a lot, the taxi rides aren't exactly cheap either, and the supplier charges quite a few extra for all the extra drop-off points. In its current state, these concepts are way too expensive. But are we using the right input? Maybe, for example, we should change the parking fees. Parking is already of course quite expensive, but it's not going to get any less. They would change the cost for the current process. Something else would be the charging fees. To be honest, right now we're using the upper legal limit, which is quite high. With a good agreement, those charges could be way lower. Third option would be the cost for public transportation. Right now we're using the standard subscription, but this could be more tailored to the needs of every individual engineer. And then there's delivery. Especially for the second concept, the delivery costs are way too high. But since the amount of products being dropped off at every point is way smaller, maybe different charges could be applied? But then maybe way more important is the driving data. What if we could prevent the engineer from going outside of the service area of the hub? With all the jobs now being within the service area, the first concept doesn't need a car anymore. So now here the engineer as well takes public transportation to get to work. This alone is almost enough to level the playing field. This model now also changes the efficiency between the concepts. Whereas the previous calculations kept the travel time between jobs the same, this one charges extra time for the car to find a parking space within the busy inner city. This combined with different charges for public transportation is enough to make the first concept profitable. The second concept, however, stays more expensive. This is mostly because of the amount of delivery costs, as we have seen before. With the use of this model, it can be seen that with a price of €12 instead of the original €17.50, this concept could also be profitable. So now we know what to look for in our price negotiations with a supplier or a third logistics partner. So, in conclusion, there are definitely scenarios in which the new concepts can be financially viable. We also argue that they're more efficient within busy city centers. The area we've now selected offers plenty of work. The engineer just has to be excluded from emergency jobs, but that's where the other engineers come in. So, let's now cycle back to the original requirements. We've covered cost effectiveness and we've covered efficiency. The concept is also future-proof because the hub can be moved somewhere else and the bike won't be targeted by anti-car policies. Scalability is an issue, but it's definitely a proof of concept. Lastly, there's the opinion of the employees. To be honest, this could be an issue. We know that they're not too stoked about leaving the comfort of their car. But we only need one engineer to get things started, and if things go well, maybe more will follow. Thank you for listening.